Oh no, actually, Streamlabs is picking up the video. Here we go. Streamlabs is picking up the video, but Discord isn't picking it up. So that's yeah. That's why I turned it off on All right, I'm gonna go live. We're all right, guys. We're having a set of technical difficulties, so give us a sec. We want to get this started and going. We're gonna need your help just to get the audio, because for whatever reason, the audio is not captioned correctly. So we're going. Yeah, I can hear you guys. Here we go. We're gonna fix visuals. There we go. Okay. All right, sorry guys, here we go. We're starting to get this going, and we're gonna need to get this up and going, and fix Sam here. Capturing up. Let's do this. Here we go. All right, we're just needing to fix the audio for you guys so we can get this show all on the road. Sorry about all the difficulties for whatever reason. OBS, or actually my Streamlabs does not want to patch the audio through to OBS for right now. So that's why we're starting a bit late, but we really want to get this show for you guys. Actually, let's try that. Yeah. Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear them. I'm patching the desktop audio through to you guys. Hi. It's not. It says desktop audio, but it's not monitoring it for me on my OBS. So. Yeah. What's going on, Fred? Yeah. All right, let us know if you guys can hear them. We can get this show on the road. Sorry about all the difficulties. Okay, so yeah, they're still not hearing you guys. We're gonna try something. Ooh. All right, I'm trying to figure out what's going on for this. This technically should work, guys. So if you guys have like a quick fix, we're using Streamlabs OBS and also using Wavelink from Elgato. Actually, it's all automatic. Yeah, actually, I've taken it off the Wave Audio to try to patch Discord straight through, and for whatever reason, it is not doing that either. I have no. Yeah, for whatever reason, now it's not picking up the actual desktop audio. Let me see why. Ooh, that's good. Let's actually fix that. That might be the problem altogether, now that I think about it. So let's see. Yeah, see? Okay, let's see. Let us see. That might be the problem. Let's see.
Valid.
All right. Oh, here we go. Here we go. They hear you. I see it all on the screen. Sorry about the late start. I think we could go. All right. Yep. You guys say anything. Say anything, and we'll check it.
What's up, chat?
There we
What's
go.
Up, chat? What's
All
up?
right.
What's up, Justin? Other Kyle. Oh, just another Kyle.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Sorry for sitting through the tech difficulties. I apologize to my guests. Thank you, No Fun, and thank you, Sam. Thank you guys for joining me. This is Dungeoneers Pack Live, a weekly live stream every Sunday at 11, where we talk about the latest news in Dungeons and Dragons and discuss topics that players and, for this edition, DMs would like to discuss and talk about. This week, we are talking about Wild Beyond the Witchlight. It just dropped. But before we jump into that, joining me today, normally it's just me talking into the void. I am joined by No Fun Allowed and SteelySam, both other D&D YouTubers, but they tend to sit more on the DM side of the screen, while me, I am just a lowly player. So we're going to be covering a bit of both. Hopefully, they're going to give us their expertise and help those DMs that are maybe interested in running Wild Beyond the Witchlight, give us their opinion on there, and also give us their opinion on Jumpgate, where we'll be discussing the Haragon and the fairies. But before we get into that, we have a bunch of D&D news because it is D&D Celebration this weekend. So first up, as you already see on the screen, Drake Warden was the first that just dropped. One of the big ones out of the big three. Give me a sec. Subclasses. Gonna be having some more tech issues. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
Okay.
Issues. Yeah.
They just want to cover there for some reason. I don't know why. Okay. Oh, I know why.
So for that issue, you got to move.
Yeah, that's why I'm moving. I'm like, where is Ray's at? His webcam is his stream.
Make sure I'm higher though.
Yeah, you're good.
You gotta have priorities.
Yeah.
Gotta have a priorities.
Well, yeah. What's it called? What do you guys think of the Drake Warden? It dropped. It is one of the two subclasses that are coming in. Have you guys actually checked out how this thing's supposed to play out now?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's it's just another animal companion ranger, but instead it's instead of it being a bear or wolf or whatever it is, now it's a little drake.
I ran a player that was a Drake Ward. I really enjoyed the flavor of it. I like their abilities. I like being able to apply their breath weapon type to their attacks. My biggest complaint was it wasn't a permanent pet like the Beastmaster, which I guess they do that to keep it unlike the Beastmaster, but I really wish it was permanent. That hour is pretty generous though. It's like a wild shape. So
yeah, I think the new one. Let me go down just a little bit. Sorry, Claire. I think I figured out what was wrong with it. They did change the they changed it. So the dragon is now permanent. It is now a permanent pet that sticks around.
Yeah.
That was my hugest complaint about this. I have a video on the test version up. You guys can check it out. But that was my biggest complaint. There was a narrative disconnect that I think a lot of sitting on the player side, that compared to the Beastmaster Ranger, where you get your pet, whatever the hell you want it to look like, and you get to develop that roleplay relationship, have it be feel like a member of the party, and then the Drake Warden's like, here's my Pokemon that I pull out every minute, and they can just be whatever element it wanted to be, and now it doesn't.
I'll revise my opinion on it. I love it now.
Yeah,
that's great. That was my only real complaint.
Yeah,
I love it now.
I think awesome. I think a really dumb thing though is the Drake grows to medium size, reflecting your special bond. You can use the mount even if your size is medium. So like, you just have this dumb thing of like, you're this big ass creature, whether you're Goliath or a half orc, whatever it is, and then you can be riding around on like this pony sized creature, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, I think they might have been better off trying to just letting it start at medium. I don't see why they couldn't just do that, and then it just grows into large, so that the whole riding thing, they didn't have to put a special clause. I guess they might have wanted to do it like it starts off as a little familiar, then it kind of just poke evolves.
Well, The idea is that it starts off small and then
Yeah.
grows to medium and then grows to large. So, like over the course of a campaign, you can kind of see that awesome growth.
Yeah. I think the biggest only other complaint I've seen now with this newer version is the fact that you have to wait till level 15 to get it to ride as a dragon flying. Because and then for me I can feel that because most campaigns don't get to level 15. They
Don't go there.
Average campaign is 1 to 10.
Yeah. So it's like you'll never get to fly with your dragon unless you cast fly. But yeah, that's the biggest.
But as we all know, flying is OP in D&D.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, trying to get me started.
Yeah. Yeah, like actually we'll get into that with the fairy in just a second. Yeah, the next bit of the next thing that they also dropped in terms of for previews was the Metallic Dragonborn. Let's see, we'll pull up the stats for you guys to see it really quick. As I fix some of the video so Claire doesn't keep getting drowned out by the previews. Yeah, what it is. Yeah. But yeah, Metallic Dragonborn, biggest thing I picked up on it was they just nerfed the breath weapon a little bit. But other than that, it pretty much remains untouched.
Well, it is a pretty big deal of pushing someone 20 feet away because, like, how many scenarios is there going to be where you're fighting on a cliff or fighting over the lava or whatever, and then the Dragonborn says, I do this, and then, like, your big bad or, like, the whole, like, crowd of enemies just gets pushed back.
True.
And falls.
True. Force movement of any kind, I think it's a very sleeper thing in terms of tactics that I know players don't really pick up on. I see it happen a ton in my own campaign. So, but yeah, what do you guys feel about like these variants though in general? Because we're getting two variants. We're getting chromatic and the metallic. We've seen the metallic, and then we're getting a brand new gem dragon. Do you guys feel like this is like the fix for the people? Feel like Dragonborn in general are a little on the weak side?
Fix? I don't think so. I think it's still. I think this race is still pretty weak. I mean, even with the 20-foot breath, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I'm like looking at it. Yeah, I don't think it's that great. I've never really had a problem with weak races.
Yeah, like I don't know.
It's better. It is improved. It's improved.
Yeah, like I feel like it is better. I like the fact that you can interchange one of your attacks with the breath weapon. I think the biggest one complaint is like, okay, Dragonborn don't have dark vision, but for me, it's like you cast light. It's not like you're not going to have options at the level 1 that darkness is going to matter. And then the breath weapon being able to use as an attack actually makes it feel that it's usable as you progress and level up, and it's not just right now. It kind of feels wasted with the current Dragonborn, and you just don't really use it.
Oh yeah, the Dragonborn, like, unfortunately, they always typically get used for Paladin, and then it's like, oh, if you're a Paladin, would you rather do this one dinky little breath attack, or would you rather hit someone and blow them up? And it's always, hit someone and blow them up. So
Dragonborn does not have dark vision. How did D&D?
The main Dragonborn.
Wait, are you asking the new one does?
The new one doesn't. The main Dragonborn and the PHB, doesn't either. The only ones that I know off the top of my head are the ones in the Wildmount book. The variants there have dark vision.
Which, like, from what I understand, whenever they're making any of these races, they basically have this air quote point buy system of like, okay, they have these abilities, they have these things, and they tried balancing it out. Obviously, they didn't truly balance it out, but dark vision is just another one of those points, and the overwhelming majority of races have dark vision. I think it's like 55% of races have dark vision. So, does we need another one that has dark vision? I don't think so.
Yeah, I think the people's problem with dark vision is that they treat it like it's X-ray vision at night, and it's not the case.
Exactly.
At least if you run it as raw, like you run it rules as written. Even if you have dark vision, I believe that if you're trying to look for somebody in the dark, you have disadvantage too, which completely gets overlooked. I admittedly overlooked that. I'm like, you can see in the dark, you should not have that much of an issue. My cat doesn't have issue finding stuff in the dark. I don't know why.
Not being blinded is a pretty big.
Yeah. All right, let me see. And then the monster stat. We got a Moonstone Dragon. I have no idea. Do not know the lore, but behind any of this, they describe the lair, and it's a lair action. So this is a big guy. This is a boss fight, and I think the big thing that everybody that I kind of saw was that it doesn't have a breath weapon for a dragon.
Yes. But what it does is the dragon can have like really really punishing layer actions. So it can do a banishment, it can do a compulsive dance, and it can make it so that everybody has disadvantage on on all saving throws.
And then it has this cool dance, compulsive dance. The dragon targets a creature it can see in a lair, and Merry Waltz begins at only the target can hear. The target must succeed on a DC 15 intelligence saving throw, or they dance until initiative count 20 on the following round. Oh my god. They're just
So
incapacitated.
it's air quote free cautious hideous laughter.
Yeah, but like they can't get out of it. Holy, for 20 rounds. Right? Until initiative count 20, or saving throw or dance until initiative count 20. Oh, so do they move up on the initiative, I guess?
The next round.
Oh, the next round. Okay. Dang, that's so. It just takes them out of the fight just like that. Man, that's rough.
I mean, dragon. Why would a dragon ever fight fair, right?
Yeah, let me see. What is a Moonstone Dragon? I don't know the lore behind this at all. This is like brand new to me. I heard Moonstone. I'm like, oh, cool, Pokemon, Clefairy. And let's see.
Moonstone is, I think, associated with the Feywild.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. Feywild community. So, okay, that's interesting. I'm liking that they are adding different dragons from different world or different planes and how they're going to affect the actual dragon. I think that's pretty cool. I know they previewed or showed off the Elder Brain Dragon, which looked wicked.
Yeah.
And then they showed off a Beholder Dragon, which looked interesting because the mouth had the eye in it. That was a weird design. But yeah, the Elder Brain Dragon, or not the rumor, but they've only said what the breath weapon does, not the actual stats. It breathes on the creatures, and if they fail that save, they get tadpoles spewed on them, and immediately Ceramorphosis happens. And Ceramorphosis, pretty much they turn into an Illithid, a Mind Flayer immediately. So it's like that's an automatic. you just lost your character. So
yeah,
which is
I love that.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm thinking with that thing, you could have an Elder Brain Dragon and a series like because the Illithids will form based off of the race that they take over. So a dragon, like a horde of dragonborn Illithids, and then the Elder Brain Dragon, like kind of. I love that twist on a dragon adventure like that. That would be
that'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. Yeah, because we are kind of I think the only Mind Flayer adventure we're kind of getting is in Baldur's Gate 3 in the game, and it's set within the timeline of the current books too. But we haven't actually got any Mind Flayer adventure. That'd be a nice way, like for their anniversary to like, oh, we're gonna do a dragon campaign, but here's a twist: Elder Brain Dragon, and here's a bunch of.
I think Fizzbands will have adventures in it.
Oh,
I watched the talk about Fizzbands. There wasn't a whole lot of information there, but I feel like I know they mentioned maps, some good layer maps, but I don't remember adventures.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stat blocks are not just going to be solely dragons. I think they said like 80 stat blocks in the book, but they're also going to be like servants of dragons, other like dragonborns that can help out the dragon, and other creatures that surround themselves in dragon. I think they mentioned something about like a scarab, a gold scarab that hides in treasure, and kind of like hides itself in there, and then will attack players. Yeah, I'm really liking how Fizzband's shaking up. Admittedly, I'm actually more excited about this book than I am about Strixhaven. I'm a big MTG nerd, and before we get into the Strixhaven stuff, other bit of news: there's a new book or a set box, whatever, is going to be announced today.
Immediately after stream, right?
Yeah, immediately after stream. $170 on Amazon right now. Yeah, what do you guys think this is?
Well, we got some speculation that it was going to be basically the go-to rules of D&D. So like some people thought it was going to be basically a compilation of Player's Handbook, Xanathar's Guide, Tasha's Guide, and yeah, a whole bunch of
Yeah.
other things, I guess.
Well,
That lines up with the price as well.
yeah, because what was the last set box? It was reprints of. Well, they've done two, right? It was the reprints with the special covers of the Player's Handbook, the DMG, and the Monster Manual, and they had the Hydro covers, the variants. And they did, right? Oh, I might be confusing because I know they also reprinted the Dragon Queen books, and those did have the variant covers.
But they combined the two books
Yeah.
into one, just making it Tyranny of Dragons.
Yeah, Tyranny of Dragons. That was. I like that.
It's an adventure.
Yeah.
It's an adventure.
It has dragons. It meets the quota. All right, we're going to jump right into the Strixhaven stuff. More information on Strixhaven. For those that are not familiar with Strixhaven, Strixhaven is a Magic the Gathering setting that takes cues from Harry Potter and other popular Magic school like stories that kind of came before and after the Harry Potter craze. Magic the Gathering finally had their own take on it for the card game that happened, I believe, a couple sets ago, and finally Wizards took the setting and are now putting it into D&D, and it is changed from the Magic the Gathering setting. The Magic the Gathering setting is based on its own separate plane of existence. It has its own setting and lore, and for the D&D version of it, they are ripping it away from that, and it's now a floating magical school that travels throughout the multiverse. And people can just be like, hey, I want to learn magic, and go to Strixhaven on its own, which I thought was interesting. I know Magic the Gathering fans are probably not going to be too happy with that, just because it's like, hey, we wanted to see the rest of the plane. But
there's something I've come to discover when it comes to trying to appease the nerds.
Yeah,
is that it's a literally impossible task, and there's no point in trying.
Yeah, yeah. I'm okay with the change as a Magic the Gathering fan, just because knowing the setting and the lore of the surrounding place around Strixhaven, it's underdeveloped, so like it won't have an impact on the school itself. And if the school is the main story thread that's going to impact on the main theme, the rest of the plane doesn't matter because it doesn't actually tie into the school really whatsoever. Other than that, they confirmed we're getting 5 new spells, one for each of the colleges. They've only hinted at the Lorehold one. Lorehold is the school or the college of like history. And they have a spell called Borrowed Knowledge. Each school is going to have their own magic item. That is also based around a plush doll of their mascot, which is interesting. And then they released information regarding the overall story that a frog-like mage is like the main bad guy that threads all the 4 stories that are the 4 adventures you can play in the Strixhaven book. And then other than that, there's feats. So they completely got rid of the multi-class subclasses that showed up in the Unearthed Arcana.
Rip.
Yeah, I like those were interesting. Yeah, they're interesting design, but the execution was off. Unfortunately, I think the fallout from that is that they're going to not explore that idea any longer, which I think is unfortunate. I think if they had enough time, they gave themselves a year and a half to develop it, they would have got something cool. But
that if that was in their heads when they from the start, they could have done it. But like after the fact, I think that's kind of why.
Yeah, I think
they have had that idea in at the beginning.
Yeah, because I think what was it? They gave themselves maybe 3 to 6 months turnaround time to make it something, and then what we had the 2 dragon subclasses for at least a year and a half, and about the same amount of time for the Ravenloft subclasses. So they still messed up on the Spirit Bard, unfortunately, but something about Spirit Focus. I will never get over this. Yeah. How are you guys feeling about Strixhaven coming on?
So The people in my community that I DM for know that a while ago I started writing my own adventure called uh, Mordenkainen's School of the Arcane. And it was going to be straight up like Harry Potter, but college edition and set in D&D. And I had written up a bunch of things. I had drawn up a whole bunch of maps, and I actually had systems similar to what's in this book, where you interact with certain peoples, and there's a certain main overarching villain, and most important of all, the interactions with all the other classmates and stuff. And wouldn't you know it, like I'm like halfway done, like writing through all this stuff, and then boom, D&D obviously stole from me. They obviously went to my computer and stole all my information, right?
They were in your Discord.
Oh,
They obviously came in and jacked it and are rebranding it to be MTG. But I'm looking forward to Strixhaven because one, it'll help me solidify my own game that I've written up, but two, I think it's good that we have these Strixhaven and Wild Beyond the Witchlight books, because majority of the adventure modules are gloom, dark, despair, world ending, cataclysmic, blah blah blah, this and that. And sometimes you just want a lighthearted romp. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah,
I agree.
I agree. Also, after playing, pretty much running my group through Avernus right now. Prior to that, we played a modification of the Ravenloft campaign, which was the being Magic the Gathering fans, we played it as Innistrad, which is their horror setting, and then we played the Ravnica setting, but we did it around the same time that the War of the Spark storyline was happening, so we used that storyline from the game. But yeah, it's exactly as you said. It's doom and gloom, war, pain, horror, and so that's what I actually like about the Witchlight book. It's a little whimsy, it's a little light, and actually that will take us into Wild Beyond the Witchlight. We're gonna get to the meat of it, but first, normally I have a question of the week for the community, but this week I changed it up a little bit and just did a easy to go to poll. Wanting to know what you guys felt and what your most anticipated or favorite thing from Wild Beyond the Witchlight was. It's no surprise as a player focused YouTube channel that you guys want the Fairy and Haragon, but the adventure did it was the second highest, going at 26%, but nobody really cares about the monsters and magic items. You guys were a little iffy on. So yeah, so with that, we're jumping in and we're gonna, let me switch screens for you guys. Okay. Dang, this thing does not like you. Does not like you at all.
Unfortunate.
You got to move them up.
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
a feeling. Where is he at? Okay, I know what happened. It's gonna.
It's all good.
There we
My
go.
camera
There we go.
is
Fix it.
anyway.
There we go. Okay, so first off the top for Wild Beyond the Witchlight, we're gonna talk about races. Well, let's talk about the fairy before we get into the Haragon. What was your guys' general feeling about the fairy?
Go on, Steely.
I think it's actually kind of weak. I miss that unique being able to. They did get rid of that being able to jump through the keyhole, right? They lost
Yeah.
that ability.
Yeah, they lost.
I like their starter spells. I like that they get flight. I think it's okay. I really did like the uniqueness of that keyhole ability. I can't even remember.
Yeah,
what it's
it
called
was
now.
Fate Passage. Yeah, you could just squeeze in
Fate
through like
Passage.
any little tiny spot. Yeah, I'll save my opinion for it after No Fun says rips the fairy a little bit.
Yeah. I don't feel that it's very unique. Druidcraft, Fairy Fire, and Large Reduce. It's nice that they get spells. I like races with spells, but overall it's meh to me.
Well, one, they took the safe route by being boring, but two, this does mark the start of races that do not have stats attached to them. Because before, all the races, of course, had +2 to this and +1 to that, or blah blah blah, this and that. But now, in a post Tasha's world, we are now seeing that we're leaving stats up to the players, not to the to the specific races. So I know that's going to ruffle some feathers because I know a lot of people prefer the stats being tied to races,
Yeah,
and you're going to have to
I
make a
saw
judgment call on what that is.
I saw a good comment on I believe it was one of your videos or one of the videos covering the fairy that they would prefer not forcing Tasha's content, like at
Mhm.
least put the baseline +2 +1 on there instead of just like extending Tasha's. I don't know if I agree with that. I've never thought about that until I saw that comment that some people don't like Tasha's.
I
Well,
think
yeah, I mean, I honestly because the community I interact with, I know a lot of people don't like choosing where your stats go. I know a lot of people prefer, their stats being allocated by their race, and you just got to live with it.
yeah, I think it wouldn't hurt them to put a iconic stat block and they just rebrand it as that. Say this is the iconic option, but here's the base like here's the option we prefer you to use, but if you don't want to, here's the iconic option. I think that'll help them go a long way from doing that. I as a person that makes character builds, I love the flexibility Tasha does. Um, but I can see the resistance to not having certain stat blocks. I'm personally of the mindset that I think that's wrong. I don't think a race should dictate necessarily how you are as a person. In reality, in a perfect world, the background and the class I think should have given you guys a stats instead of the race. Because obviously, how real life is, your life experiences will determine really much more of what you are instead of what you're born with. Obviously, there's some
Well,
physical
one could make the
things.
argument
Yeah,
that humans are the same race, and we just tack on the
yeah,
word race for a dumb reason.
yeah.
But me personally, I want to see a return to class as race. I want to be like, oh,
Oh,
a tiefling is unique. I, I like that style of play, but obviously I'm in the minority on this one.
Uh,
But
I am very disconnected from the character sheet. I do not care. I don't care about the stats at all.
Yeah, well, the thing for me is when it comes to all the classes race or not the classes race, but specifically like stats for your race is I feel that locks people away into this mentality of oh, we need to do exactly this one thing because if I want to do this one exact build, I need to have this one race because of their racial abilities and then this and that.
Mhm.
And I find that with like with min maxers in particular, they lock themselves in the same builds because let's face it, in 5e's already been decoded. There's always the best build,
Mhm.
yeah,
and it's fun seeing people pick a half orc wizard because when you have a +2 to strength and con, and you get this like these abilities that have nothing to do with wizard. Yeah, you're not like the best wizard around, but it's still fun. Versus like
yeah,
nowadays it's always like, oh, I always pick the same things because they're the best things.
yeah.
I
And
don't
that,
want the best thing.
yeah, and then for me, like, that's exactly why I like Tasha's. It opens up and it doesn't restrict players to. It encourages players to think a little bit more outside the box and just pick something that's going to be more uh fun and visually or how descriptively fun versus I'm just gonna pick variant human so I can pick up my feet and just like every character is gonna be the same. I still see that conversation happen in a lot of the especially in my Discord and then in a couple other Discords that have character building stuff where it's all optimization and min maxing and they still try to pick the most optimum choice. And for me
Yeah.
as a and it's weird. I'm the one person I feel that does character builds, but does not do it that way. And I mainly focus on here's a fun concept. This is how you can sort of play it. Like this is the best way. This is the best way within my own little confines of it. It's not going to be the most powerful. We're not going to do like 10 dips into this, 5 dips into something else, and then another 5 elsewhere. But it's more so. I like the fact that Tasha's itself opens it up so you can go more after fun concepts and not just go to the same tried and true options that kind of get boring after a while.
Yeah. For me, it was seeing the like I fell in love with that choose your stats after seeing the well, there's only two races with wisdom, Furbolg and Kalashtar. After seeing the
Yeah.
Furbolg life cleric for the 100th time, I
Yeah.
was like open arms when Tasha came out. I
Yeah.
was like, please, I stop. I'm so tired of like min-maxed
Yep.
Well, see,
characters.
I'd rather just live in a world where people don't min max. I'd rather live in a world where
Well, I mean
people
that's that. I
perfectly
mean,
except
Yeah.
14s and 13s in their stats.
Yeah. And actually, that's funny you bring that up because in my actual Vernus game, I had to kind of slap hand on one of my players because they didn't want to. It was a strength challenge, but their character's just not good at strength. But in character wise, it would make sense that they would, save their ally from falling down because it was all athletic based. But since they weren't good at strength on the sheet, they did not want to do it just because the higher chance of failure. And I had to tell them like, no, do cool shit, do cool things. If your character's heroic and they know in character, they would try to save them. I'm like, you're better off doing that and trying than failing. Or of trying and then not trying. I mean, just go for it. And then that's the kind of the mentality I have with character builds and stuff. It's like you want to play something cool, regardless if it's powerful. Your DM will help you on that end. Don't worry about it. Just play the cool thing. You're gonna have more fun that way. All right. And,
Yeah.
yeah. In terms of my thoughts on the fairy, I've posted it up on. I have a video on both the fairy and the Haragon already. You guys can check that out. To kind of summarize what I thought on the fairy, I feel it's very bland. I agree with you guys. There's nothing mechanically unique about it. We've seen all these mechanics in other races. We get the spells. The spells are fine. I think they're great. Enlarge, reduce, I think gives them more play in terms of the variety and the utility that spell offers. The only thing is, unlike other options, the flight actually hinders most of your character choices now. If you really want to be able to get used to that flight, you can't play anything with pretty much armor. I know for heavy armor for sure, meaning you're not really going to be able to have access to most frontline. I'm the knight fairy in the fight unless you're going to play a barbarian with a shield. Other than that, it's really having the Fey racial trait is actually really good to dodge a bunch of spells, and then having flight on top of that early on. Early on, it's strong but not busted. I know. I agree with you, Sam, on this. Like, flight is not a deal breaker at the early levels.
Yeah,
100%. Stuff has roofs. There's roofs in dungeons. Dungeons have a ceiling cap. Unless every fight is out in the middle of the field, I don't really see why. But you see a target up in the air by itself. Your enemy should have our bows and arrows too. They're going to target the thing that's flying, that's shooting on them.
Exactly. The best is when the wolves pull out bows and arrows and start shooting with their teeth.
Yeah.
See, like the wolf argument, like, is always the one that gets thrown up as the example,
Yep.
and it's like those wolves will eat you did not win that fight because you got away. Like,
Yeah.
unless the entire party can fly, which is an entirely different campaign, you're gonna watch those wolves eat your party, and then you're gonna the challenge is to get them out, get their bodies. You're not gonna be able to kill the wolves fast enough.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think it always comes down to the white room scenario situation that's never actually. I don't find it as valid just because each scenario, each combat is going to be different. But your character doesn't work in isolation. I think what the big argument is, your character's part of a team, and there's strengths and weaknesses in each one. And if you're only focusing on what you're going to do and not necessarily what your role is in the team, you're going to struggle.
Well put.
Justin asks, just another Kyle, not Justin, excuse me. Does the fairy race leave room to choose barbarian class? Yes, it does. Luckily, with barbarians unarmed defense, that is pretty much your only viable frontline option for a fairy.
I'm actually curious, but so does unarmed movement specifically say your running speed, or does it just say your movement?
Good question.
For the fairy, I believe you can't fly if you're wearing armor. Pretty much heavy armor.
No. But does it improve your movement, your flying movement speed?
I've got it right here. Unarmed fast movement. Your speed increases by 10 feet. So it would be your regular ground speed. I don't think speed. I think speed is specifically because flying is a separate speed.
If it just says
it sounds like just your.
It's a blanket speed. If it just say, because it'll save movement. Or else, let me look this up really quick.
That's interesting then.
Yeah.
I assumed it would just be ground. I feel like any dex base
dex
is viable because that's your AC in that case.
Okay, so fast movement for the barbarian. Starting at 5th level, your speed increases by 10 feet while you aren't wearing heavy armor. Whenever they do any sort of speed increase, it's just it applies to all your movement, unless it specifies that it's only walking speed or swimming speed or flight speed. So
There
since
you
this
go.
is a blanket, just your speed increases by 10, and then if you have the flight feature that
So
says
as a barbarian,
yeah
you're just flapping your wings harder, and you're like,
yeah
ah.
yeah little hummingbird.
42. And the unarmed movement says speed as well. So monks fly faster too. Man, that means that all of those unarmed movement increase your speed. So you got like plus
Oh,
30 at 20. Oh
people
my
are gonna
gosh.
be
Yeah,
monks that take the mobile feat. You know that there's
yeah.
gonna be a bunch of fairies flying around.
Fairy monk,
Good times.
mobile feet. Ooh, ooh, Kensai. Just do Kensai so you can actually have like whole theme of actually using a weapon, zipping around. All right, let's jump into the Haragon. It is a very
Oh boy.
movement heavy race. But there's also a controversy on how one specific ability works. First, overall takes on the Haragon. What do you guys think about it? You guys like it? You guys don't like it?
I think it's another case of they went the boring, safe route. I think. But the thing
I
is it procs it uses a D4 for dex saves, which is unique, I guess, and they're using the proficiency bonus a bit more, which is what everything post Xanathars has been doing now. So
I'm fine with the Haragon. I think it's okay, well, with the exception of the what we're going to talk about, the
Yeah.
rabbit hop. All right,
well,
so without rabbit hop, I think it's actually cool. I don't think it's weak. I don't think it's strong. I think it's pretty cool. I like the lucky footwork, the perception, the bonus to initiative. It's cool. It's kind of meh. You choose medium or small. I'm looking at it right now. I think it's okay. Rabbit hop obviously needs work.
Yeah. Summarizing what I posted in the video a week ago. Rabbit. Haragon is probably the first race option that I've actually got excited about in a very, very long time. Mechanically, thematically, everything sort of fits outside of the rabbit hop issue. It does a good job. It does a better job than most races of making you feeling like you're the animal person that you're supposed to be. You do get a sense of feeling fast, so you get the bump to initiative. Um, you get oh, I gotta pull it up. Pretty much the dexterity save bonus is really really good. The one thing that stood out for me with the Haragon is while there's some synergies with like certain subclasses that boost up your initiative, so you can always be in front of the pack. All those features benefit every class, every playstyle. Like you're never gonna not want a buff to initiative. You're never not gonna want a bonus to your saving against dexterity saving throws. You know,
And perception skill.
yeah, and the
One of the best
perception is
skills.
the best skill in the game, pretty much the most utilized one. So it's like you're always gonna want these things. I've seen other people comment that, oh no, that it's only gonna be dexterity based characters, and I'm just like, in a mindset, yeah, speed translates to dex characters, but mechanic wise, it's a good race for pretty much everything. Like you do it
well,
doesn't.
not only that, but jumping is also based off of strength, not dex. So
Yes and no. Let's get into rabbit hop. This change this bungle of word soup
Right.
mess.
Ready your keyboards.
Yeah.
Chat.
So okay. So first off, let's get the big thing out of the way. Where do you guys sit on the argument? Is it what I say? Is it is it a Misty Step like feature, or is it a really weird Nimble Escape? Pretty much, kind of where this thing is. How do you guys read it when you guys looked at it?
I see it as literally just an upgrade to your traditional jump, meaning that you cannot jump outside of your movement range. Simple as that.
What about you, Sam? What do you think?
So one of the big things that I've seen come up a lot, and I actually like tweeted out, and I did a PSA in the Discord, is that jump cost movement, and I still believe that, but I've had quite a few arguments against it. The big one was the Storm Sorcerer. Like, there's a sage advice that says that the Storm Sorcerer's flight, that additional flight that they get, does not pull from their movement. And there's a few other examples, and that's like the big one. is that extra movement. As far as like choosing up to 15 feet or up to your proficiency, I think that was misprinted and that'll be errated. I think you'll be able to choose up to, like, you don't have to go the full 15 feet. Like you don't. I think that'll be errated. I would rule that it's up to.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the max. And my big issue with, like, a lot of people say that's strong. I mean, that is not tabaxi strong. That comes back on a long rest, and tabaxi it comes back on a turn rest, and it doubles your movement. Like, that don't get me started on tabaxi. I think I've gotten a lot of flack for saying tabaxi is one of the strongest races. I stand by that. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is in terms of like its movement. It has some ridiculous movement. I will back that up. Tabaxi does tend to be a stronger class, so, or race option. Adrian was asking, can I have some background? I haven't picked up the book yet. Okay, so the rabbit hop issue is this. It reads in such a way that you're going to sit on two sides of the argument. Either one, the way it reads is that whenever, actually, let me just pull up. Let me just pull up what it is. Actually,
Yeah.
let me grab my book so I can read it word for word.
Yep.
I'm posting. I'm copying and pasting it.
There we go. There we go. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. So I'll read it from the chat. As a bonus action, you can jump a number of feet equal to 5 times your proficiency bonus without provoking opportunity attacks. You can use this trait only if your speed is greater than 0. You can't use it a number of times equal. You can use it, a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. The point of contention is the fact that it says jump in there. But the way it reads and how I originally thought it worked was that it was just going to be a Misty Step-like option, because the way it reads, all those features read in total, makes it seem that jump is using a general understanding of jump and not the actual jump rules. But thankfully, Eric, Fryminius, shout out to you, pointed this out to me after I was disagreeing with Wintry Wyvern in a Discord conversation. Is like, hey, I don't think it works that way, because I'm like, the way this all reads to me, if I'm reading it as a whole, it reads a certain way where I would assume that I get an extra get out of jail sort of situation, but as a whole. But looking into the actual rules and how since it specifically uses jump, jump comes with a connection of movement rules that you have to use your movement in order to jump, which means your limited amount of actual movement, which actually makes the feature weaker. Not bad. It acts more like a free escape clause, but you're still only relegated or still held within your movement speed. And that's where the big fight and confusion is. Hopefully today with the sage advice, they answer
which
this.
is starting now.
Yeah, which should be starting now. So I'm hoping they come down and answer and figure this out. I still believe, or I'm hoping that it is more of a Misty Step situation where it does give you an additional movement, and it's mainly used to get you out of a situation. The 0 clause for me is like, you don't have the movement because they, for whatever reason, they could have just said if you're grappled or restrained you can't use it, but they use that clause. But also, I guess, to signify maybe how rabbits get tired really quick. They move really, really fast and they have to stop. Move really, really fast and have to stop. So maybe it's some sort of flavor with that. I'm fine with either situation it works at. If you want more context, Indestructible Boy and Fryminius did a little collab video discussing and breaking down the rules. It's a really great video of how it works. So if you go to Indestructible Boy's channel, it's on there. I recommend checking it out. It breaks it down in a really neat package and also goes into a little bit more detail of some of the other actual clauses and the way D&D rules language works, and how what Sam said, how the jump rule itself does, or the jump mechanic and this rabbit hop specifically doesn't limit the amount you jump up to, which also causes confusion. It makes it seem like you're supposed to jump the full extent. So there's some missing clauses, especially compared to its UA version.
Yep.
What are you guys hoping the ruling is on this, though?
You can go first, Claire.
Well, I wouldn't allow you to escape a grapple, because I don't think that makes a lick of sense. Yeah, but I would just make it so that it applies to the rules of movement, i.e., you cannot move outside of your movement range.
Um, for me, I would like it to say up to jump, or or excuse me, up to a number of feet, and I would be okay with it not cost like I would be okay with it giving you a bonus to your movement. In my opinion, that would make this race very good. Not like the best. I would still say Tabaxi's better. Their movement option is better, but that would make the Haragon really good in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm in the same boat. I will want it to have the extra movement, and I'm okay with that. But I agree with no fun that if you're restrained, grappled, prone, or anything that removes your movement, you can't use it. Like you're kind of just stuck with it. I think they do need to fix the language on this. I have a feeling an errata is down the road really soon. But yeah, like I'm okay with it being a variant of Misty Step in a way, as long as it's restricted. Yeah, because there's other races that have the actual Misty Step on their, I think, on their racial, or they can get it like super quick anyway. So it's not really that much, but yeah. So that's the races, guys. What's it called? I have a video on breaking down both of them. So you guys can go check that out. I was posted last week, and but we're gonna get into the book itself. I don't know how much spoilers we're gonna get into. Um, but I got to read some of the book and have a general overview of thoughts coming from the player side of stuff. But we're gonna start with you guys. Book. How do you guys like the adventure so far? Or if you guys actually got to read it or skim through it, or
Yeah, I've read through it multiple times now, already running it, and I am here to say that this is easily in my top three of most favorite adventures of the 5th edition module lineup. It so what this module does, this adventure does, is it actually leans into 5e mechanics, because I feel like there's a lot of adventures, most notably Curse Rod and Tomb of Annihilation, some of the biggest adventures of 5th edition. They actually have mechanics that go against D&D's or 5e structure. Uh, and I find that Wild Beyond the Witchlight does what 5e does best. It does pulpy, high action octane, awesomeness. Simple as that.
interesting. Yeah. I only got to read most of the beginning, so I kind of know how it is for the player side. Sam, what do you think so far for this book?
so real quick. All right, so I'm actually just gonna say no spoilers. I'll keep it spoiler free.
Yeah.
I think that chapter 1, the carnival, is the best level 1 adventure of any module I've seen, like of any. That carnival is so good. There's like most of the time it's really hard to balance a first level encounter because like they're so low at hit points. There's not a whole lot they can do. And the carnival just completely negates that. And to be fair, you don't even need to be level 1. Like any level can go in that carnival. And it's just that carnival's so well done. Past that, I really enjoy the Feywild. I really enjoy the attempt at a pacifist style run. I'm actually running a pacifist game to see how that works. And so, I mean, so far the carnival is, combat free. So,
You say that now, but I know that there's some groups out there that are.
man, I had a reborn Carney almost get burning hands because he was reborn, but thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah, I think the carnival is such a strong opening. I love the story. The ending, so ironically, the ending and the beginning and the ending of this adventure is like the best of the modules. Like the ending of this adventure is just blew me away. It was
Oh,
so
yeah.
fun to read.
I didn't get to go to the ending because actually in my last session there was talks amongst my players that potentially running this. So I'm like, I need to read this for the stream, but I'm like, we might play it, so I might not want to spoil myself. So I ended up not spoiling myself, but I'm glad to hear that the ending is actually a really, really good one. Looking at how the Avernus end is as ends, how it ends, and I'm running that one. Um, it's gonna be satisfying for my players on that end, but I don't know if it's a good ending. Like in terms of just how it is at the story wise, it's like I don't know how they forced that one in. So I'm glad that at least this Feywild book is going to have a very satisfying and good ending to the story.
Absolutely.
The problem with Baldur's Gate, or Descent into Avernus with a splash of Baldur's Gate, as it should be called. I think with that adventure, they were definitely trying to go for the here's what could happen approach to adventure modules, which
Yeah,
I'm okay with, but I know that a lot of people want these adventure modules to tell you how to tie your shoes, and they want these adventure modules to, they want you to basically do it all for you. And I personally, once again, I have different approaches. I want 20 to 40 page adventure modules. I don't want 200 to 400 page modules, but obviously it
yeah,
looks like a lot of people like the 200 to 400 page modules.
yeah. Like for me, I don't DM a lot. I'm this is like Avernus is like my first real like serious go at it. I'm having a fun time of just like warping the campaign to it. Um, in terms of player side for Wild Beyond the Witchlight and approaching it and looking at it, reading the first, pretty much the first chapter before getting into the Feywild, I agree with Sam. Like it looks a lot of fun. I was a very a sleeper on the carnival theme. I'm just never been attracted to that sort of aesthetic and themes. But after reading it and seeing how the DM has enough tools to kind of set up different pathways to get you there and have your character immediately connected, which is something that wasn't in the Avernus campaign. That I will say the two books different as my point of reference. Giving your players immediate hooks, and hey, um, you can either be from the carnival itself. You can be another little spoiler. You can be a person that visited the carnival as a child and lost something, and now you see the carnival's back and you want to retrieve it. And or another plot thread or a way to introduce your characters, like a warlock has come and needs your help. There was like three different paths and just three different ways to get your characters into the Feywild, into the carnival, and I thought that was interesting and also great that you can actually just like mix all those three, so your characters can all still feel that unique. This is my own epic quest sort of vibe, and still find a way to be a team. That was super
Sure.
interesting. It adds like a lot of narrative that you can add into your character. Um, that is like the big bonus compared to Avernus, where it's like they show up at the gate in front of Baldur's Gate. Go.
Yeah.
They don't know each other,
Uh,
but yeah, they're on an adventure now. Go for it.
So yeah, just another Kyle asked, with the
yeah.
capability of non-combat campaign, is there a negative to attempting to going through this murder hobo style? What I will say is, if your players go through this murder hobo style, killing all the enemies along the way, there's a lot of fun enemies to interact with, and there's a lot of fun encounters to be had. So if your players do come in and see a monster kill a monster, there is going to be some fun times to be had. It's just a matter of how, I guess,
I
how much are you willing to play into that?
I would strongly recommend a different campaign. I think
Yes.
that yeah, it's like I'm gonna try and answer this as best as I can. With the capability of a non-combat campaign, is there a negative to attempting to going through it murder hobo style? Yes, So, I think so. Yes, in my opinion, there's not enough like if you were gonna go in murder hobo and you want to kill stuff. I don't think there's enough. Um, that's such a good question. That's a really good question. I a different campaign is I think is what you need for that one. I'd be curious to see how that would work though.
So I know that if you go through this murder hobo style, like you
You'll
basically
die.
to
You'll
break
die
to
pretty
break it
quick, right?
down like this adventure is short. If you run this thing purely as written, whether this be combat or non-combat, the adventure is going to be over in like anywhere between maybe 10 to 30 sessions, somewhere around there. Because if you go non-combat, obviously the game's infinitely shorter because combat takes anywhere between 30 minutes to 4 hours or whatever. But if you do go through this combat wise, you get into some fun fights with weird factions and weird individuals. And at the end of the day, this is a lower level adventure, so maybe the murder hobos maybe want more power, and this once again is not the adventure for you, but it's still doable.
Yeah. I will say that you need that as a murder hobo, you're going to need to know when to run, because early in the adventure, like right out of the carnival, they're going to put you there. You'll be up against things that you should not be fighting,
Yes.
and if you go in swinging, you will die.
Well,
Yeah.
one thing to consider about this adventure is you can have it where the monsters have would never kill you. You could have it where the monsters, if they knock you out, they capture you, and
Mm,
now you're a prisoner, or
that
you're
is true.
doing something, or they just mug you, or whatever.
There is a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel then with this non-combat, more of a pacifist or a social approach to this adventure, did they give DMs enough tools to facilitate that, as opposed to standard adventure, go kick the door down, slash kill everything that's there, take the loot and dip? Is there enough social situations or alternative ways to handle situations that they give the DMs enough tools to actually facilitate that style of gameplay?
Claire, how you feeling? What do you
So,
think?
in regards of social tools, at the end of the day, the book can't sit there and say this is what players are gonna do, because players are gonna ruin everything. That's what players do, right? Like that's literally all of D&D is players ruining the game. So, they can't sit there and be like, okay, your players can approach this situation in a number of ways, because your players are going to do anything and everything differently. They're going to try to put some factions against other factions. They're going to try to trick the evil, monster into walking into a trap. They're going to do various things, and you are going to have to lean into the improv if you want a non-combat style approach. If you are going for the pacifist run, you're going to have to sit there and realize that your players are going to come up with some crazy weird solutions, and it may not work, but you just have to run with it.
Right. Does the book give you the tool? So I'll kind of talk about the tools that it does give you. As a DM, you have to go into that pacifist run with the idea that there's not going to be combat, and you're going to need to make things interesting throughout the campaign. Like one or two sessions without combat, that's one thing. I've played in a lot of games where games will drag on and it's just boring without that kind of that action packed adventure. So I'm curious. I'm only one session in so far with my game. As far as the tools that are provided, they give you the monsters. They give you an out as far as avoiding combat. They give the players an out. Prismere has a set of rules that everything in there follows, and one of them is hospitality. If you put in the work to give everything a personality and a style and what they say, what they do, there are tools there, but it'll be hard. It'll be hard for the DM, 100% to keep it interesting for an entire campaign without combat.
For sure. And something too is I feel like a lot of DMs default back to monsters acting the same way because, oh, it's always a hobgoblin always fights because that's what hobgoblins do. But this time you have to sit there and be like, okay, the hobgoblin isn't going to try and fight. The hobgoblin is going to try and get something out of the players, or maybe the players are going to try to get something out of the hobgoblin.
Exactly.
You need to kind of scrub away your preconceived notions on monsters in regards of see the party, fight the party. You need to lean into the three rules that govern Prismere.
Yeah, looking through the stat blocks and stuff of some of the monsters and on some of the descriptions, that's one thing I actually really applaud WotC for doing is changing the idea or forcing the DM and eventually the players to force their preconceptions of what they thought of what that monster's supposed to do. I think players and groups that play long enough together, they do get into this habit of routine, like hobgoblin, goblin, we kill. That's XP. But having these characters show up and being some of these monstrous races and not doing what they're normally doing, I think will uh help players and help DMs kind of figure things out that not everything has to be the standard. They can play with toys that tend to be set a certain way in a different way. Really like there's a goblin that shows up that has a bunch of keys on it. Uh, and
Jingle jingle.
yeah, Jingle Jangle. That has some really fun art. In terms of the success of this book or the why this book sort of came about, do you think this was more aimed towards the streaming community, considering that it has non combat options? With combat options, do you think that maybe something that's a little bit more story driven, that there's going to be more character interaction with the world itself? Do you think maybe the impact of that is because of stream games, stuff like Critical Role and everything D&D is putting out, Roll20's putting out to stream? Do you think maybe this was like a reaction to that?
Mm, so Chris Perkins has wanted to make this adventure for a long time now because he likes the Fae and he likes hags and he likes all these various things, and he's been wanting to make this adventure for a while. I don't know if streaming is the reason why the adventure led this certain way, but I do think he did want a reprieve from the traditional doom and gloom. I think he wanted to not write the, oh, how do we get the PCs to save the world for the 17th time now. I think that this adventure is just a product of every adventure beforehand, not maybe not necessarily the community. It might though. I'm not in that guy's head. I wish I was
Uh,
though.
I think streaming was an influence on the game, like you said, Critical Role and Dimension 20. A lot of really good role play takes place in those, and there's no denying the popularity. So I'm sure that was factored in with this campaign. I've never given that much thought until you said that. So I don't know if they like approached it. Uh, we were designing this for streamers, but I'm sure that streaming had an impact, which I definitely appreciate from Watsy. Paying attention to the community is it's great, and working with them, it's fantastic.
Because in general, WotC, just playing Magic the Gathering for so long and just seeing how they do react to the community there, um, and reacting to the wants and needs, not as much lately, but like at least in the past, they do pay attention and they do look at mainly as the numbers, and it's mainly keeping people's eyes on certain products and stuff. So for me, I wouldn't be surprised that the streaming community did have an influence on the style of play that might come out now, more role play oriented, with combat still thrown in the mix or as a capability, as possibility. Um, but I would not be surprised that did have a huge bigger influence, especially the marketing guys are saying, "Hey, Critical Role, Dimension 20 are more role play heavy. They have combat, but they're more role play heavy stuff. Can you guys want and do more role play heavier books, because that's what the community is asking for in all these surveys and stuff they're doing." You know?
Which is interesting because 5e was built around like the entirety of the combat and the resource management is all built around the idea that you get into 6 to 8 encounters
Yeah.
in a single day.
Yep.
And yet we've seen that nobody wants to get into 6 to 8
Yeah.
encounters in a single day. So me thinks that when 6th edition finally comes around, maybe in 5 years or 10 years or whatever, I think that they're going to approach the idea of resource management and all that in a very, very different degree.
Yeah. I agree. I think they, as popular and as long as this edition's gone, I think it's very, as you pointed out, they figured out that that isn't the table's playstyle whatsoever. It's very much in a session you might get 2 encounters maybe, but most of the time it's gonna be one big encounter if you're playing in like a 3 hour blocks roughly. You're getting that one big encounter and then that's pretty much it. I could see that having a big change in the future for a future version of 5th edition, but that is a whole other topic I can get into for that future of 5e.
Yeah, there's an hour or 2 hours
Yeah.
there, right there.
In terms of, let me see the time. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up soon. Do you guys think if this book is successful that we're going to start seeing style of more of the style of potentially roleplay heavier non-combat uh, scenario editions of adventures going forward, or at least provide options out for players that or for groups that like to roleplay heavier and not necessarily dig into the combat?
I
So
hope so.
now that yeah, so now that we know that Hasbro is whipping Wizards of the Coast to make 6 books a year, like we're gonna be seeing more things, and we're gonna be seeing a lot of because I feel like before when they had this release schedule of 2 or 3 books a year, they had to basically keep with a certain formula. But if they're pumping out more and more books, then I feel like they can go outside of their traditional box. And more so if this is successful, much like how if Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft is successful, then we're going to be seeing more new things, which is always good for us because we're either going to get awesome new things or we're all going to hate it and then we're going to push Wizards of the Coast in the right direction.
We'll
Right.
hate it and ignore it and go back to go back to what it was
Exa-
before they put it out.
Exactly, right.
I got some of my players in the chat right now, and they're talking about my group is a very combat heavier group. I know Wild Beyond the Witchlight might not be their cup of tea if we go the non-combat route, so there needs at least needs to be combat. My brother's in here; he's saying, "Let me hit stuff." I, but they're concerned with at least a couple of players knowing that they get antsy when we get too wordy, start talking to NPCs a little too long. But
Yeah,
okay,
I'm curious. I'm curious how players like that will feel about the campaign. I'm
so
looking forward to their opinions on that.
when it comes down to it, is this something you guys would recommend to DMs, and also would you recommend this book to pick up for players?
Uh,
Mm.
I will say for players, I'm not. I mean, I encourage all players to at least try DMing. So yes, for DMs, I think this is a great start for DMing. This is up there with like Lost Mines for getting started DMing, and there's definitely potential for learning new. Like for more veteran DMs, there's potential for learning new skills running this campaign with the pacifist run and the more role play heavy. And that's pretty much how I approach any campaign. It's just like, how can I pull this to make me a better DM? So I think this book does that. I recommend it.
Yeah, for me, I wouldn't recommend this book to players because those players ruin everything. But in regards of should DMs pick this up, as much as I love this adventure, and I know some people are going to love this adventure, like we've mentioned before, this book is not for everyone. Unfortunately, this is not a adventure that everyone can pick up, and it's gonna be sunshine and rainbows, and it's gonna be honky dory. No, we know that there's people out there that just want to kill things. We know that there's people out there that want to go to strange, weird, vibrant, crazy worlds and and maybe take over kingdoms and maybe save the world and this and that. And this book does not do that. But what this book does do, it excels at. And like I said before, this book actually leans into the 5e mechanics. It doesn't stand opposed and add friction to the 5e mechanics like unfortunately some of the other adventures do.
All right, for me, for players, best bang for your buck, I say skip this one. You guys are okay with skipping this one. They're going to reprint the Haragon and Fairy and whatever Tasha Xanathar's book they're going to do in another year from now, or they'll be reprinted. And then pretty much as a player, that's all you're really going to get out of this one. There's a couple backgrounds, but those are very specific to the campaign. They're not universal compared to some of the other ones that have showed up. So if players save your money, it's okay. Your DM might pick this one up if you really want to play Haragon and Fairy. Ask them for the stats from the book. And for DMs, I will say this is a very my only other basis to compare it would be Lost Mines and Avernus. Um, I think this is a really great intro campaign. I think it gives you better tools than Avernus does in terms of how they structure the book to get players invested and hooked in immediately. Which for me, as sitting on both sides of the table, um, as a player, I want to be invested and get hooked into the campaign. And this does that. There's 3 ways to do it, and you can mix and match all of them to get every character in. At the same time, for a DM, it gives you tools to run games. Like, just there's a carnival section that has obviously at a carnival there's going to be games and shows. It gives you at least tools you can take those things and put them in Ravnica, for example. You want to play Rakdos. Well, Rakdos run a big carnival. Boom, throw it in there. You're going to go Theros. Well, you can take that carnival idea and just be like, there's a town fair. They're doing plays and a bunch of other stuff, and there's games for the kids. And then obviously Forgotten Realms. You do Ravenloft, it'll be a twisted version of that. And there's actually in the Ravenloft book there is the Dark Carnival version of the Witchlight that they do cross-reference each other. So there's opportunities for that. And yeah, it's a shorter campaign. You're not looking for something that you're going to run for a year or 2 years, like an Avernus or Horde of the Dragon Queen. You're getting something that's a lot shorter. So for DMs, I definitely say pick it up. This is worth having on your shelf. I'm actually glad I picked it up. I was tempted to skip it just because I do player content and I'm mainly a player, and I'm only really going to run every game so often. But I'm glad I picked this up. It is a great book, amazing book.
Mm-hmm. Serrano's asking if the adventure takes place in Prismeer or any other part, or does any of the adventure take part in the Feywild? So Prismeer is a domain of the Feywild, and the adventure takes place exclusively in the Carnival and Prismeer, the domain of Prismeer.
I think we're going to get a situation, hopefully, like they did with the Ravenloft and Curse of Strahd, where this book kind of gives you the taste, and it does enough and does well enough that there's a demand for Feywild content, and then they will put out a setting book. And hopefully a lot of the turnaround's a lot sooner for that. I know there's something on the DMs Guild that they posted like as a companion that is officially backed by WotC. But I'm hoping a full-fledged out Feywild, here's all these domains of delight, and get the same treatment that Van Richten's gave to Ravenloft.
Van Richten's Feywild, 100%.
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
that'd be awesome.
All right. Again,
I don't want to be Van Richten though. I want to be someone fun. Like,
yeah. Baba Yaga's Feywild.
Exactly.
I guess that could work. That's another the summer court.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Okay, we're gonna wrap this up now. Again, thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, Sam, last minute, kind of last night, letting me know you're interested. Thank you for jumping in. No fun. Thank you for coming on too. You guys are more than welcome to come on any of these. We got 2 more books coming up, so they may come back. Again, where can they find you guys? Where can they find you guys, and what are you guys working on now so that they should go check out?
I am SteelySam. My YouTube is youtube.com/SteelySam. And I am currently working on Feywild. I live stream my Feywild games. Monday will be my Pacifist run, and then I have a Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday game. And those are my live streams, and I'm also working on shorts. I'm going to be doing Monsters from the Feywild coming up, and module guides for DMs that want to run it. Pass turn.
How's it going? No Fun Allowed. I cover all of the adventure modules. I've done 5 so far, but I'm going to be working on Wild Beyond the Witchlight and one other one pretty soon here. And I cover just how to GM tips, and also I cover some other role-playing games, because 5e is not the only tabletop RPG out there, people.
What?
There's more.
Blasphemy.
I know. I know.
All right, and that does it for the Wild Beyond the Witchlight stream. Next week, I don't know what I'll be covering, but I know there'll be maybe 1 or 2 streams of covering topics. And if you guys are interested, again, depending on the topic, if you guys are more than welcome to jump in on those. It'll be some sort of D&D related topic. And other than that, then we got Fizzban. We're going to be doing another stream for Fizzban coming up, and then eventually Strixhaven. We got back-to-back books. Prepare your wallets, people. Buddy. Prepare your wallets. That's at least $150 if you're supporting your local game store, and at least $90 if you're going the Amazon route. As always,
if you want to make Bezos a trillionaire, I guess.
Yeah. As always, thank you for my guests. Go check them out. Go support them. Go to their channels, like, comment, subscribe, everything for them. You can go on the Patreon if they have Patreons. Go support them there. It is very important for content creators to support them, especially if you really like their work. Whether it's through monetary means, obviously that's always the dream. But commenting and just letting them know that they did a good job. It helps. In terms of what I've got going on this week, I just put out a video on a Haragon build. Using a Haragon to make a character build inspired by like Rocky Raccoon, Bucky O'Hare, all these sort of little critter with big guns, sort of thing. So it's an Artificer Cleric build. You guys can check out, that is up there. Last week I put out my look into the Fairy and Haragon. You guys can check that one out too. Where you guys can catch me pretty much Deepak YT on Facebook, Deepak YT YouTube. No, Deepak YT, excuse me, I'm messing up my own little pitch. Deepak YT on Twitter, Dungeoneers Pack YT on Facebook, and Dungeoneers Pack on Instagram. And that's pretty much it. Again, thank you to my guests for showing up, talking with me about Beyond the Witchlight. Again, and until next time, you guys have a good one. We'll see you later.
See ya.